Welcome to part 3 of our introduction into Rhino 5. So for this video tutorial today, we're going to go over our shortcut menu on the side and just check here. Yeah, that's all we're going to do today because there's quite a bit of tools in here. I don't want to make this video too long. So let's get started. So basically all of these tools are shortcuts into things that we can access up top on our larger drop-down menus. They kind of put the most commonly used tools in here just for quick and easy access. So I'm just going to kind of go through them one by one, all the ones that we actually will be using during our guitar making project, and kind of just teach you through showing you exactly how they work. So the first tool we're going to go over is using points. So if you hold your mouse over top of any of these commands, it brings a drop-down menu of what they're called. If you click it and hold it, it'll give you multiple options you can use for that tool. So for points, basically the only tool we're going to use is single and multiple points. So I'm going to go ahead and select multiple points. And I'm going to go into our top view. And basically this is just going to allow me to put multiple points anywhere I want. And you can see on the bottom, on the front view here, it's moving it along and it's drawing it right on that plane. So I'm going to press enter to finish off with that. So drawing points allows us to put points in a certain point in space, and then we can connect them with a curve afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to use our polyline segment. As you can see, hold it down again, it gives us a bunch of different options that we can use to create different types of lines. The most common we're going to use is a line or a polyline. Polyline just means you're putting multiple different lines together. So I'm going to do here. And right now I have it turned on so that when I get close to a point, it's automatically going to snap to it there. So see, I'm not touching it, but it still is snapping to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I can quickly and easily just connect all of the points that I drew here. Press enter and I'm done. I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. If we do a single line, it'll only allow us to do one, and then we'd have to go and do that multiple times. So polyline just means we have to do a bunch of different small lines over and over again. Again, when you select it, you get some different options on the side. So we can do a line, we can do an arc, stuff like that. So that allows you to draw just basically different types of lines really quickly and easily. So now we're going to go to our next tool here, a control point curve. So basically what a control point curve does is it creates a nice rounded edge using the control points we use. So it kind of finds the average line on here and it creates it through there. So as you can see with the lines, it just went straight from one to the other. This one kind of looks at the average slope of the points that we created and creates an arc around that. We can make it go through points as well. So I'm just going to delete this one and we're going to go through points. So you can select them one by one, or I could highlight and select them all, but I'm just going to do that. Done. So now we have a nice rounded curve and it goes through every single point exactly. We can change our degree. So as you can see, 1 is a degree that just gives us straight lines. 2, 3, we start getting rounded. 5, we're very round, a nice even slope there. So those are kind of the ones that we're going to use most often for creating lines. We're going to do lots of line segments, and we're going to do lots of like control point curves when we're creating a guitar. We're actually going to use control point curves to draw our guitar. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete our control points here. Also, when we're doing this control point curve, we don't have to pre-draw all the points. We can just go ahead and lay the points down as we draw it. I get a nice round curve like that. So I'm going to drop down to our second row here, which is kind of just different curves that they give us shortcuts to do. So again, as we learned in the previous video, a curve is just a line. It's a two-dimensional drawing of a line. And this is just shortcuts to a couple different types of curves. So this one is a circle, and it gives us a bunch of different options for drawing circles. So I'm going to do a circle with 3 points. So the first point here on the left, second point on the right, and then I can draw it however large I want to make it. Quick and easy circle. We can do a 2-point circle, just 1, 2, circles done. Select them all, delete. We can do ellipses. So I'm going to do one from the center here. So another quick and easy way to draw an ellipses. You have a couple different ways, from curves, from diameter. Go ahead and do that. Arcs, as we learned about in our curve tutorial. 1, 2 points, draw our arc, or we can type in the degrees we want to do, so say 90. We get a perfect 90-degree arc there. Delete that. And let's go into our rectangle tool. So again, just to show you, when you hold it down, it gives you a drop-down menu of exactly what tools you have, or you can just click on it and it'll give you just kind of a cleaner description here. So I'm going to do a rounded rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my 2-point rectangle. First point in this corner, second point here, and the third point will be rounding off the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these in. I created my rounded rectangle. You can also just do normal rectangle corner to corner. Done. For this, we have our polygon tool. So basically you create the length of one side and it creates the whole shape for you. We have another cool one in there called our polygon star. So you do the same thing, create your polygon, and then you move a second polygon in. You can very quickly and easily draw a perfect star. So those are just some of the shortcuts that they have for creating different curves. So we have these tools along here, and again you can find all those up here in our curve tool. You can type in help, so say you want to draw a circle, it'll give you shortcuts to all of those there. So these are just another way that you can access different ways to draw here. Filleting edge, kind of went over that in our last video, what filleting an edge is. So I'm just going to go ahead, make this into a line, just do a quick close to 90-degree angle there. I'll go ahead and fillet a curve. So you can see I made a nice large fillet on that curve there. Go ahead and delete that. So yeah, these are all the tools for our curve network here. So next up we have our surface tool. So this it's a quick and easy way to kind of draw a surface. And if I turn our shaded thing on, you can see that it's a surface. Let's go to perspective view. You can't see through it. We can go underneath it and look. You can't see through it. You can also do this to draw surfaces between different curves that you drew. So that's a shortcut there. Generally, I like just working out of the surface tool up here. Kind of just makes it easier, I find, to look things up. We're not going to use a lot of surfaces in creating our guitar. We're mainly going to be using solids and curves. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on the shortcuts there. Go ahead and delete this one. Again, just a reminder, I'm in perspective view now because we're going to start working in 3D, so I want to be able to show you what our shapes are looking like. So we have our tool here, box, corner to corner. We can go down, there's tons of different types of shapes we can do, so I'm just going to show you a box really quickly. 2 points to create the rectangle, 1 more point for the box. So a really quick and easy way to create our box there. Again, this is just stuff that we're doing in our previous video, so if you see any of those, don't be worried. They're just leftovers from the previous video. Do things like truncated cones. So really just a very quick way to draw a shape that if we have to sketch out all the pieces individually, it would take a really long time. So this is just a tool that allows us to just really streamline the process, make that a lot easier. So this is just basically they have a bunch of different shapes in here and just a quick and easy way to create them. I'm just going to go over tube real quick as well. Base of tube. So when we look at this, some people might say, oh, this isn't a solid, this is a surface, because you can see through it. But the solid is from here to here. This is a solid object. You can't see through that section. Even though you can see through the object, you can't see through the actual solid that we created. We're not going to go over booleans. We're going to go over that more in detail when we are actually creating our guitars. So don't worry about that for right now. And also don't worry about the mesh tools. We're not going to really use a lot of that. Just going to go ahead and draw 2 quick lines, and I'm going to go over our joining, exploding, trimming, and splitting tools here. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of these. They're individual objects, as you can see. I can move them independent of one another. Go ahead and select them all. I'm going to try and join them. So it says, I get a pop-up on the bottom that says unable to join curves, and that's because our points on the end aren't touching. So I'm going to try to trim them. So I select an object to split, and I'm going to select an object to cut. Done. So now you can see I cut this line segment half, and now the end of this line should be touching perfectly on this line segment here. And that is how we split an object. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to group these. So when we group an object, that means now when we select them, we have two curves in a group. So now when I move them, they no longer move independently of one another. They're kind of stuck together unless I unsplit them. So now again, I can move them separately. Undo that. So that's kind of just quickly how to trim and group objects together. One of the cooler tools in here is the text tool. So you can go through and you can select the font that you want to use, the size, and you can write anything in here. Drop it in here and it will create it in 3D. So as you can see, this went way past the size of my file here. But you can see, again, super quickly and easily made this a 3D image. If we were to go in and draw these all out by hand, like this would take hours to do. So we can just do this super quickly and easily, create 3D text. Go ahead and find some of the shapes we were using last lesson. Again, we went over in pretty good detail how to scale in the lesson before. So this is a shortcut here to scaling 3D, 2D, and a one-dimensional scale. I'm not going to do it right now because I think we went over it in pretty good detail previous lesson, but this is the shortcut to it here. We have a shortcut into rotating in 2D and 3D. And those are kind of the tools that we're going to use most often while we're drawing guitars. I'm just going to really quickly go over the shading viewports. So how we can go from like a wireframe drawing to a shaded three-dimensional object. So this one here, we have a little shaded viewport thing that pops up. We go ahead and hold that down. And we're going to go wireframe viewport. So that allows us to see all of the different curves in our solids. So that's helpful if we're editing it. If we want to see more so what it will look like in real life, we can go ahead and select that again, and it will give us like a shaded three-dimensional view of it. We can change exactly what it looks like. So right now it's shaded. We can do things like X-ray so that it's still shaded, but we can see the curves through it. We can do ghosted just so it's not quite so predominant. We can still see through the object, but it's not so distracting. Rendered, so this is kind of exactly what it will look like in the real world. I generally like just keeping shading. And then to turn that on and off, you can just select this tool. Go wireframe viewport, or we can go like that. And the final tool here, it's called our render. So if you hit that, it'll render all the objects, and this is exactly what they will look like in the real world. No coloring or anything. This is just basically takes the images we drew and it renders them into a final product. So basically that's what we created. This is what it would look like in the real world. So these are the shortcuts on the side. We're not going to really go into too much more detail on any of them, just because we're not really going to use them. And generally it's a bit easier to use the top search bar. So that is video 3 of 4, and just to highlight everything we did all the shortcuts on the side here.